bedrock that the water would come up like that, because you see it's dry all above it. I'm going to take the pruning shears and I'm going to prune more as I dare to reach in there. I don't even like my pigs going in there too much right now. It's so soft. But I keep chewing in at it from all sides to try to find where is that source of water. All right, they've been patient. I better turn them across. Well, they're trying to help out, and they are. They are helping out a lot. See, when it gets ungrazed like that for a while, the roots underneath get like rope, and the spade just won't go through them very easily. Now the pigs have a little time to eat at it and pull at it and tramp it in, and if it's wet enough around there, it'll come to the point where I can drain it. I think I have an outlet. Don't know where the source is, but the outlet is not going to be that way, where there's a tile or culvert underneath a lane. It could be, but I think the outlet is going to be this way. It could be both. That was the original plan here, I think, about 5-10 years ago, to drain it both ways. But I think it's going to be to the right. That's going to, because most of the water, I think, is over this way coming out. Now that piece of carpet that I mentioned that's been buried, that got me worried, thinking that maybe people used this as a dump. It was an excavation. Maybe they started to just throw stuff in there. I don't know. I don't think I did that. Well, I'll go on the rest of my walk. Here I'm below that spot where the pigs were just wallowing. I'm draining it so it doesn't just get bigger. But I wanted to show you that all this leakage from underneath the lane has to do with that. And that green, I'll call it algae, don't know for sure what it is. That's pretty clear indication that there's something organic up in there that's decomposing. Now, up there where those boards are in that green little building, that's my son's garden, and it's on top of a leach field, a large leach field from that house, but it isn't used very much. And although to some extent it does work its way down through the ground and shows up with a certain amount of algae in these ditches, it's usually not very much. Not like what's right there. So I think that's more immediate to something that's going on up in there. When I can, well, I could do it now, I guess, but I'll ditch that across that to get control of that seepage and find out where its most precise source is, but that's for another day. There's definitely something here of more interest than some of the other places. I got 1, 2, 3, 4 pigs. Well, I did, no, I'm trying to remember. I don't think I threw any corn in there this morning. No, I didn't. It's going to be an interesting story, and of course I'll keep you in touch. Now I'm going to drain this as best I can before I go on. Here's more of that red oil slick kind of discharge between these two zonjas. And I think what I'm going to do already here is I'm going to take halfway and I'm going to start a zonja through there. To drain it, and also, well, for various reasons, to find out what's going on. Remember, this was all iron mined. This is an iron mine that was bulldozed over. And when I first started here, you saw that a lot. But now that there's more water going through there, it's changing. I had no idea it was iron-eating bacteria at the time. I thought it was waste oil or something. There, in another 10 minutes, that initial zonja will be full of water. Now, as I was doing that, I was hitting that rope-like plant that, I don't know if it's roots or grass, it's just something that hasn't been eaten and is gradually building up like a mat. There's something particularly untasty about this spot, I think, or wet. There's other ones along here. This was a major industrial spot at a certain point, but it was so old, it was about 1880s, that it didn't actually do quite as much damage as you'd think. Back in that, steam engines were just coming on then. That's where I just was. Here's another spot that water's beginning to seep out of the hillside because of my irrigating, and once again you can see that oily reddish slick. And here's another spot. Maybe I'll start it today, maybe not. Well, out there you can see it as well. I'll run a Zandja for sure through here as well to reveal this and to start to heal it. There, I've just added about 10 or 15 Zandja feet. That's what I call that when I advance a Zandja long, you know, for each foot. I call that a Zandja foot. That's a unit of measure I guess I've created, but I'll eventually talk about how that applies to a pond. Down there's a pond. How many Zandja feet is that? Not that many, because a Zandja foot has got two banks, one on the left and one on the right. I'll have more to say about that later. If you've been watching these water walk videos lately, you might remember this spot. I explained that I'd opened a hatch in a high spot on the breast right here. Well, it ran all night, and now it is soaked below it. And now that Zandja right there, I'm ready to try to go across that wet spot. I probably can very easily do that. I'll come back here after I'm done. If I get across it, and I think, well, as far as I get, I'll then open the end of it, a hatch in the end of it, and then soften all that ground. Well, that added that was very easy to go across there. That added probably 20 Zandja feet to my irrigation system. Looks like I got a little low there. I'll adjust that. And here I'll put a hatch, an opening, to let the water go down that way and soften this area. Now that hatch has done its purpose for the moment. So what I'll do is I'll just barely block it off. I'll make it at the right height, and then I'll go along and find another spot, maybe about there, to do the same thing. And so progresses my irrigation system back across the hill. I'll do that now, but then I'm going to go down and see if the vegetation is friendly enough there that I can cross that whole area with that Zandja. I don't know if I'll go lower than that today. I probably could, but the vegetation's still kind of tough. Up here, where stuff didn't grow very well because it was so dry, it's much easier. There, I tuned that low spot up, and then I opened an end hatch. That's what I'm going to call this, I think. An end hatch here to start its work. And now I'm going to go up there and deal with that. To have a repeat performance, I chose a spot that was slightly higher than it should be. Looks about an inch, maybe two. And I opened a hatch. And that hatch I closed, but only barely, because that hatch will be the right level, whereas the rest of this is about an inch or so high. So now it'll have probably till tomorrow morning to soak that hillside. I might open it just a little more. That would probably be enough. Hard to do this with my right hand. There it goes. This is a valve, or a side hatch. Maybe that's too much. Oh well, probably not. Trying to find ways that you can relate to where I've been. I'm down here. I'm adding Zandja feet here. Now I've said often enough, when you dig this, you've got to have a flow of water, and that water should be level. It should not have any ripples in it. If it has ripples, then you're going downhill. If it doesn't go into what you took out, then you've gone uphill. And if you maintain that, you can get within a ½ inch. If you start to run out of water to use for your site, well, then you need to stop and wait. Another thing to say, I've said this so many times and put it in print, but no one pays attention. When you remove these glebes. That's what those are called. Don't flip them over like a moldboard plow would do. No, set them down so the vegetation is up. You want to do as little disturbing as possible, and set them down not right on the breast but just beyond it, so that you can have a more accurate measure. The main thing I want to say is when you remove the glebe, set it down gently, I'd even say, with the roots down. That's fairly easy going, but I think I'll stop, partly because back there I don't really think I have enough of depth of water to make sure my reading is accurate here, and I don't want to get too far off. Probably I could add to that one down there, get further down, and it's too swampy still to really do this well. So I'm going to go back up now, and there you can see where the new hatches begun to prepare that next ground. I almost forgot to leave an end hatch. And by the way, I've written and talked a lot about the discovery of square, level, plumb, and square. And there you have it right there. The zoysia needs to be level. The water wants to fall plumb. And when level comes to plumb, you've got square. For a while, the pigs are going to do a lot of this because they're working the edges of the water, and they end up blocking a ditch. That's one of the reasons I have to walk up along this once or twice a day right now, because now eventually those sods that they work down from the uphill side, they'll run out, and the nature of the, I'll call it work, eating grass. Down there's a pig eating the leaves and the blossoms on autumn olive. There's one browsing. These are cleaning up that sod that they've turned up. And then here's another one of the pigs gobbling up the leaves and flowers on the autumn olive. I tend to call it Russian olive, but that's what it was originally called. They're beautiful. It smells, you can't believe, if you've never smelled how beautiful this stuff smells. But it's regarded as a real major invasive plant here. Not to the pigs, what they can reach. And when I prune branches and they lay on the ground, well then the pigs say thank you and work on them down there. Some of you may remember Jim and Jam, the tortoise shells. They're witnessing how far the water has come along this Biss. It's come a long ways. But I think until the leaves fill out and it gets shady here, I don't think it's going to come much further. But I think after that happens, and especially if we get some rain, I'll be able to make it out into the field this year. I certainly hope so. But anyway, just to show them that we haven't forgotten them. And I leave a hoe here just for when I'm here without the right tool to go up and check for leaks.